It's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and it's another episode of the Life in the Movies podcast. I'm one of your co hosts. My name is Ryan Cam. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This week, we are going to be finally reviewing Black Panther Wakanda Forever, to go into all the details about that. And, well, Disney's been going through a bit of it as of late, and it's going to be a lot of fun discussion, and we'll also be talking about Daredevil season 2, episode 7. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I got to introduce my co-host first, Jacob Martin. Jacob, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. First off, since that we're recording this the week of Thanksgiving, and this is dropping the day before, Happy Thanksgiving to everyone watching this. It's going to be a good week. The day this is dropping, Ryan's actually going to be on my channel. We're going to do our discussing DreamWorks episode on Joseph King of Dreams, which is going to be very exciting, and also if you follow my channel later on this week, Saturday, Ryan will join me for a watch party on Home Alone. So there's definitely some exciting things to be thankful for this week. And of course, I'm excited to be on another episode of your podcast, Ryan, talking about Black Panther and Daredevil and some of the recent Disney news.
I'm looking forward to watching Home Alone with you. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm also looking forward to rewatching Joseph King of Dreams because I have not seen that movie in a minute. So it's going to be interesting to see what I think of how many odd years later. But like Jacob mentioned, this is going up the day before Thanksgiving. So on behalf of both of us, have a happy Thanksgiving to everyone watching. I hope you all have a great day off if you do have it. I've worked many a Thanksgiving in my time as working for a movie theater. You're pretty much obligated to work Thanksgiving no matter what, because it's one of the busiest days of the year for a movie theater. And that's no BS. Like, the theater gets super busy. It's crazy to think about. So to all of you people working on Turkey Day, we salute you. We hope you stay safe out there. But Jacob, Disney's been going through a bit of a rough one as of late, with recent news that Bob Chapek is out as Disney CEO and Bob Iger is back in for, I guess, an indeterminate amount of time to see about Bob Chapek's replacement. Now, this is not going to be trashing the man. I don't think that would be awfully sporting of us to do that. But I mean, we've been critical of certain things he said. That's why 2 weeks ago we got the animation celebration on the podcast, because of certain quotes that he made that were very stupid. But as a fellow human being, I don't want to trash the guy too much because, I'm a nice guy. I try to be fair in most circumstances. But man, Bob Chapek he didn't do a good job, just from everything that has come out as of late, just from when he took over to when he stepped down, or not stepped down, but was let go. Wow, things have just got worse. I read somewhere that Disney lost like billions, or maybe not billions, but it was a lot of money, more money than Jacob and I will probably ever see in a lifetime.
Yeah, I think the number I saw was like 1.7 billion that was lost during Chapek's time, which yeah,
Wow.
that's pretty bad. Which I think some of that I think could probably attribute to COVID. Probably he came on during a bad time because COVID was just going around when he replaced Bob Iger. But then some of the stuff he's done since then have not really helped much. His insistence on making Disney Plus higher priority over theatrical releases, I think has been a big downgrade for Disney, honestly, as so many movies that would have been great theatrical releases just got dumped on Disney Plus. And even in 2022, like Turning Red and even Chippendale Rescue Rangers, which would have been great theatrical releases, just got dumped on Disney Plus like it's nothing. And that's a shame. They would have been great theatrical releases. And on top of that, you had the whole lawsuit with Scarlett Johansson, who didn't like that the Black Widow film got dumped on Disney Plus instead of theaters. Well, it had the day and date, but putting it on streaming hurt the box office chances of that film. And then you already brought up, Brian, the animation comments, which haven't helped much. And then I saw that like the prices at the Disney parks have increased sky high since Chapek was part of Disney. Like the prices have gone up, and some of the new systems don't really do much for the consumers. There's a lot of technical glitches I've read, and I think one of the systems I liked the one time I was at Disney World, which was the Fast Pass, which you could use to bypass lines. That's not there anymore, and they have like the Genie system where you have to pay to bypass the lines. Yeah, there's just not been some good. There's not been good developments at Disney with Chapek on board. So I'm I wasn't surprised that. I mean, I was shocked that this removal happened so soon. Like I knew he was going to get booted out eventually, but I wasn't thinking it was going to happen immediately. When I think I had read back in the summer that he had like at least a 3-year contract. So this was very shocking that it just happened right now, and they got the other Bob to come back to clean up his mess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I read somewhere that Chapek allegedly has a $20 million severance package, and that there's a clause that says that he pretty much can't say a bad word about his time there. So he's pretty like the Chapek era is pretty much scorched earth at this point. And like I said, not going to try and trash the man. Don't know him. Don't know what was going on at Disney at the time. We could speculate all day long, but speculation can only take you so far. I think you brought up a good point, Jacob, about COVID, because COVID affected literally everything. Like for a good year and a half, as a pro wrestling fan, from March of 2020 to like May or June of 2021, there were no fans allowed. And AEW did a thing where they allowed certain fans, but in small clusters around Daly's place. I know I was there for a December show, and they had a group here and a group there and a group over there, but they were very distanced apart. But point I'm trying to get at is that, like you said, COVID affected pretty much every industry, and especially it affected Disney. Like it affected everyone. So I want to go a little light on Chapek because COVID had a lot of backlash on everyone. However, there's also the human element, and Chapek did some things that on his own, regardless of COVID, that just didn't work. So it's hard because there's some things that, again, admittedly, wasn't a fan of, but at the same time, there's those things that he just couldn't control. So I don't know. It feels very complex to me. The show House of Cards, that was on Netflix and starred Kevin Spacey. We won't talk about that, but that show kind of broke me in the sense that whenever I hear news about this, I'm like, I wonder what the discussions were like. I wonder how many 3 a.m. meetings were had to be like, all right, you're going to go away and your excuse is this. And probably is not even true. I mean, I'm pretty sure like Chapek knew about this, and I'm just making stuff up as I go along. But my point is, it's weird. And like I said, I'm not a mean person, so I hope Chapek is. I hope he does good. I mean, he's getting 20 million just to sit at home, so he's cool. So I'm not going to cry too hard for him.
Nah, me neither. I think whatever does happen to him, he'll be just fine. Uh, I'm not gonna miss him. That's all I have to say on this.
Yeah, but what do you all think of the Chapek situation? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. All right, Jacob, well, let's dive into Daredevil Season 2, Episode 7, called Semper Fidelis. And I gotta say, watching this back, because I saw it in 2020 when I saw it in 2020, and I can't really remember all that much from it. So all this is still just very, very fresh to me. So when this ending happened, and Daredevil drops the flashlight down, and Elektra's like, "Let me know when it hits the ground," and it cuts to credits. I'm like, "Oh, that was so mean," because I wanted to see more, but I guess we'll have to see in the next one. So this is Semper Fidelis. Murdoch and Foggy take on the DA in the trial of the century, but their client refuses to play along. Murdoch struggles to balance his dual identities. Yeah, that last part certainly is a theme throughout the episode, because Daredevil slash Matt Murdock is trying to burn the candle at both ends, literally, and he's failing at one of them, because Foggy is pretty much like Atlas carrying the world on his shoulders, going up against the DA and Reyes and all of her cronies, and he's just trying to maintain, and Matt is off with Elektra fighting off the Yakuza. So it's a rough day to be a Daredevil, fair to say.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was kind of frustrating to watch at times because honestly, I'm more invested in the Matt Murdock storyline where he's uh, dealing with the Punisher case. And then you get frustrated. I got frustrated at least when Elektra keeps showing up to try to rope him to come out as Daredevil and take on the Yakuza. There's still great action sequences in there. I like the banter between the two, but honestly, I'm much more invested in the Punisher stuff. That's where I wanted to see more of, and so the whole back and forth with Matt Murdock and Daredevil, and Foggy being frustrated on Matt's end, and Elektra being frustrated on Daredevil's end. I feel like I'm being roped into it as well because I'm more invested in one storyline over the other, and I feel like one is kind of distracting me from getting into the other storyline, which is a little bit frustrating. It's still an enjoyable episode. I enjoyed seeing, especially more stuff come out on the Punisher side and where that starts playing into fact. The drama between characters is still really good. I like seeing the actors, work off each other. And um, I'm also intrigued, Ryan, even though the Elektra storyline is not really the story I'm the most invested in. I still was kind of curious over what was at the bottom of the hole. So I'm not gonna lie, that was really intriguing, and I can't wait to see what happens there. But as of now, I'm more invested in the Punisher stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't really help the Elektra stuff that Punisher has been around since episode one. And I mean, he hasn't been seen. We first saw him in episode two, but he's been mentioned in whispers since episode one. So he's the big centerpiece of the season. And so, like you said, anything that takes away from it just it feels off. But I slightly disagree in that I'm actually intrigued by Elektra. I want to see where this goes, because there are certain lines of dialogue in the episode where pretty much Elektra is pretty much bad for Daredevil and his mental health. Because there is a great line from Foggy when they have a great back and forth in the bathroom, by the way. Foggy
Yeah,
is just completely killing it this season. Just a brief side note. But in this scene, Foggy talks about how Elektra pretty much nearly got Matt expelled from law school, because he's like she is just not good for him, but good for him at the same time. So it's a weird dynamic.
yeah. It's interesting because I like the back and forth between Daredevil and Elektra, but I'm not as invested in it like I am on the Punisher stuff. But going back to what you said about Foggy, my favorite moment in this whole episode was where we get to like the opening speeches between both parties at the trial. And Matt Murdock was supposed to make the opening statement, but he's late because of his previous night with Elektra. And so Foggy's left in a bad spot, and he pretty much has to improv the opening statement on why he he and his team are defending Frank Castle. And that was such a brilliant moment for Foggy to shows that even when he's in a tough spot, he still knows what he's doing when put in a bad spot, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the rest of the season, because we are officially over the halfway point for season two, it's looking like the quality of this show is just going to go through the roof by this point. And I actually wanted to ask you, Jacob, now that we are officially over the halfway point of this season, do you like Daredevil season one better or season two?
I think as a whole, so far, I preferred season one, and that's only because season one had Wilson Fisk, who was such a fantastic antagonist. I enjoyed exploring more of him while setting up Daredevil and getting his origin story through and through. Season two, I think, is kind of a juggling act because there's a lot of stuff I like in it so far, especially when we're dealing with the Punisher. But I think it's hit a few snags because I'm not too invested in the Elektra storyline.
All right, fair enough. Well, what do you all think of Daredevil season two, episode seven? Leave it in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. All right, Jacob, let's get into the main event for the evening and let's talk about Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We both have finally seen it. I personally have a spoiler free and a spoiler filled review. The spoiler filled review I had up with Cody from the Brock Up side. So check both of those videos out if you do feel so inclined. So I'll turn it over to Jacob. So, Jacob, what did you think of Black Panther Wakanda Forever?
All right, so it's interesting because Black Panther is one of my top three films in the MCU. I really enjoyed the world building. I enjoyed the mythology of Wakanda, and Chadwick Boseman was absolutely incredible in the role of T'Challa. And I was very excited to see the sequel when it was first announced. But we all know what happened. The crew was dealt with a bad hand when Chadwick Boseman sadly passed away. The movie also had a lot of hurdles. It was made during COVID. They had to shut down production for a month because Letitia Wright had a bad injury while filming. So there was a lot of hurdles this movie had to go through. And this movie could have easily fallen apart because of that, especially when you lost your lead actor. How can you move on from a tragedy like this? But Ryan Coogler pulled it off. This movie was still a good sequel that I thought did a respectful job at honoring Chadwick Boseman's legacy. The movie had plenty of moments where it gave you time to grieve with the actors. It seemed like you were grieving with the actors while they were trying to process the loss of losing somebody so incredible as Chadwick Boseman. And I enjoyed seeing the progression of the characters and moving on from this tragedy, particularly with Letitia Wright as Shuri, who had some gut busting moments or gut punching moments. I meant to say. Angela Bassett is the queen. I mean, she was incredible in the film. Lupita Nyong'o. Everyone gave their A game in this movie, and you can tell this movie was made as a clear love letter to Chadwick Boseman. And I think the conflict I thought was overall really intriguing. The movie does meander a little bit in the middle act, especially some of the side plots that the movie has. But when we're dealing with like the main conflict, the characters in Wakanda trying to heal after a tragedy, and even the whole conflict with Wakanda and the underwater people, there's some good action in there. Namor, I thought, was an interesting villain. He's a little too similar to Killmonger, but he's still an interesting villain. And I enjoyed like the visual aspect of like the underwater world. The score is still fantastic. The visual effects are top notch. I don't think this comes near as close to matching the first film, but considering the circumstances, I thought this was a good and worthy sequel. And I thought it did a beautiful, respectful job of continuing the narrative in such a poetic way to honor the legacy of Chadwick Boseman. So this is one of the better films in Phase 4 for me.
Yeah, this was definitely a high point of a very up and down phase, that's for certain. I'm glad that you really like Namor. The more I think about him, he was definitely he was definitely a very welcome addition, and 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 I can't wait to see more of him because I have a feeling that he's going to be a pretty big deal in the later movies. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I know I think we've got more Namor coming in the future because he's still around by the end of the movie. The character did intrigue me throughout. I enjoyed learning about his backstory. The underwater world that we see, the underwater kingdom he's a part of, I thought was actually really cool visually. I enjoyed. I think his worldview I thought was kind of interesting. Like I said, it's very similar to Killmonger. I think he. I think the character lost a few points for me because his motives are pretty much the exact same as Killmonger's. But I thought Killmonger was a much more interesting character because of his personal connection to T'Challa and the world of Wakanda. But considering the fact that the movie was trying to paint that Namor's struggles and Shuri's were pretty similar, I thought there was a really cool parallel between the two characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's safe to spoil things, right? It's been a couple of weeks since the release, but
Mhm.
what did you think of Angela Bassett's death in this? Because I did not see it coming.
Yeah, I've heard differing opinions on her death. Like I watched a spoiler video from some of my other friends on YouTube, and a lot of them were disappointed that they killed off her character because they were like, "Oh, well, yeah, they had to like write T'Challa out of the movie because of Chadwick Boseman's death, and they have to do another death in there as well. That's making the movie too sad to watch." But honestly, I was okay with them killing her off. I thought it was a very unexpected scene. I didn't see it coming, for one thing. And two, it helped propel Shuri as a character in the third act. Like the decisions that she ends up making are propelled by losing her brother and her mother in the same movie. And I thought Letitia Wright really excelled at the emotion in her character, especially after losing two pivotal figures, the character that she's playing. So I didn't mind that they killed off Angela Bassett's character, which, by the way, I thought Angela was absolutely amazing in this movie. I loved her performance throughout, especially loved the raw emotion she brought, like when she's stripping Okoye of her title and she's like, "Oh, like I've lost my whole family," and I know I messed up the line, but she's like pouring her heart out into her performance, and it was yeah, she really did an incredible job there. She really, I think, being such a legendary actor she just brought so much gravitas into playing that character, and especially after such a tragic death, she was one of the highlights in such an emotional narrative.
I really appreciated the dark take that they went down with Letitia Wright. Some of my favorite scenes in the movie involve her. On one of my favorite scenes personally was when she takes the synthetic heart-shaped herb and she goes to the ancestral plane only to find Killmonger there. That was a shocker for me.
Yeah, literally when that scene showed up, literally in the theater, I was like, "Oh wow!" I was not expecting Killmonger to show up, but yeah, that was probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie because for a while, I was honestly thinking that with a scene like that, it was prompting Shuri to take a darker turn compared to her brother, because she's lost so much. She and T'Challa don't have the same. I mean, they had a good bond, but she's not T'Challa, and so when the people she loves, she lost the people that she loves, and earlier in the movie, she was metaphorically talking about wanting to burn the whole world. Yeah, that's a bit eerily similar to some of Killmonger's ideals, and so once she ends up donning the Black Panther mantle in the third act, I'm like, yeah, it's cool seeing you in the suit, but you are nothing like your brother. That's all I'll say there.
But she pulls the nose up by the end. And I think what
Yeah,
I like about the movie is that there are no easy answers because you can understand her rage at just everything that has happened, but at the same time, you can't let the rage consume you because in the words of Master Yoda, hate leads to suffering. And she nearly she nearly brought a lot of suffering onto a lot of people.
hmm And I think that's what I enjoyed about like the final payoff was that Shuri realizes that pretty much she and Namor have gone through similar amounts of pain and different circumstances, of course, considering the two cultures. But she saw that what Namor was suffering was just about similar to what she was suffering with loss and pain and heartbreak and tragedy and stuff, and saw that, hey, we have our differences, but deep down we have similar pain. I think we can work this out. And I like the payoff of that. Instead of just killing him, she's like, okay, we can form an alliance. I'll help you if you help me. I like the payoff of that, and I think it led to a sweet message at the end.
Yeah, I think overall it was a very good message, and like it was alluded to, this is the end of phase 4, and we don't want to talk about it, or I don't want to talk about it more than I have to. It was a very rocky phase, but as of now, this recording, like I said, end of phase 4, we're now on to phase 5, and the next MCU related anything, the big movie, we're getting the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. But in 2023, the next big movie is Ant-Man and the Quantumania. So we've got that to look forward to. And so, Jacob, are you excited for that?
Yes, I am definitely excited for Phase 5. Phase 4 has been very inconsistent in quality. I think some of the shows have definitely been some of the weaker projects that Marvel has done. I'm looking at you, especially She Hulk. But I enjoyed most of the movies. I think Thor: Love and Thunder was a little bit underwhelming, but I enjoyed Wakanda Forever. I thought Shang-Chi was fantastic. Highly enjoyed Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And my favorite in Phase 4 is still Spider Man No Way Home. I really hope Phase 5 they can get some of the kinks out of their system, maybe work a deal to maybe like improve the morale of some of the visual effects artists because they're suffering a bit rough at the moment. But I'm still excited to see some of these upcoming movies. I think more so the movies than the shows. One of my gripes that I had with Wakanda Forever, like I said, it meandered a little bit in the second act. You can definitely feel the 2 hour, 40-minute runtime. And uh, even though I thought the Ironheart character was fine, I thought the character was okay. She didn't like take me out of the movie or anything, and I thought she was a fun little side character. You can tell she was just there to set up her own show, and I don't think she's a compelling enough character just from what I saw in this movie to headline a Disney Plus show. Ryan, what did you feel about the Ironheart stuff?
I honestly liked it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of this character going forward. I uh,
Yeah,
I I think that it was I wanted to see more of her. I've seen people say that her involvement was too brief, but it's a movie called Black Panther, not Ironheart. So her involvement was about what I wanted it to be. It introduced us, and we wanted to see more of it. I liked it. I liked the spirit of it.
yeah. The only part I really did not care for in Wakanda Forever was the whole subplot with Martin Freeman's Agent Ross character. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Martin Freeman, and I liked his character in the first Black Panther. I thought he served his purpose better in the first movie. But every time the movie cut back to him and we find out that he and Julia Louise Dreyfus's character were formerly married, I'm like, I honestly don't care about this side plot and them uh, bickering and trying to figure out what's going on their end. It just was not interesting, and it grinded the movie to a halt when it was there. I will say what's fascinating is uh, playing the whole devil's advocate, though. I liked the whole bombshell that Val, Julia Louise Dreyfus's character, pretty much revealed one of her motives that she's after vibranium. She wants the vibranium for herself, which I thought was kind of fascinating. And I'm really intrigued in future MCU storylines how big of a conflict will vibranium bring to the overall current phases of the multiverse saga, especially since you have the whole Wakanda that has their own obsession with it, the underwater world where Namor's dwelling has their own vibranium, and now there's some American people that want vibranium for themselves, like the Val character. I wonder how big of a conflict that's going to bring in future MCU movies.
Well, we know one thing for certain: Secret Invasion is going to be in the cards, and we've already gotten a teaser trailer for that. And that Secret Invasion storyline is all about Skrulls portraying various Avengers, and the Skrull stuff opens up an entirely different can of worms because you could unwrite certain things, and I don't want this to happen. I'm saying it's a possibility. You could be like, oh, the real Tony Stark didn't die. The Skrull version of Tony Stark didn't die. I'm not saying I want that to happen. Let's not, don't take me out of context. I'm not saying that that should happen. I'm just saying that that possibility is on the table. Secret Invasion could be that crazy. So just think on that for a minute.
Yeah, I don't know if I would want that. That would undermine such a poignant sacrifice in an amazing movie.
Yeah, and
Uh,
again, I don't want that either. I'm just saying that with the scrolls, you don't really know who could be a scroll or who could be a real person. I remember they did the scroll invasion stuff on this show on Disney Plus or Disney XD. Y'all remember that network called Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And they did the Secret Invasion stuff in that show. And Captain America almost never recovered because it wasn't the Steve Rogers, the human Steve Rogers that died. It was the Skrull Steven Rogers that died. And so he had to repair his image over time. And so it was handled very well in that show. So again, definitely a lot of possibilities. Again, not saying it should happen because Iron Man and Captain America's deaths were perfect and they should stay that way. I'm just saying with Secret Invasion, a lot could happen.
yeah. What do you think of the mid-credit scene?
I loved it. I thought it was a good way to keep the Black Panther stuff going into the next phase. And it's looking like down the line, we're going to get another King T'Challa because that's T'Challa's son.
Yeah, like I wasn't expecting that possibility to ever happen. Like, you forget that there was such a gap in time between the two Black Panther movies and even the whole Endgame, where there was like a 5 year difference, even just from that movie with the whole Thanos and the snap and the blip. Obviously, there was time, I think, before that to where T'Challa and his girlfriend or wife or whoever it was would get together and conceive a son. I thought that was a beautiful poetic ending. Like you talk. It seems cliche to compare it to the Lion King because there's similarities between the two stories, but it's almost like a circle of life moment with father and son, and I thought it was very beautifully handled. And I think to those who were like recast T'Challa, I think this was like the good. I think this was like a good compromise to that. I'm like, we're not going to recast Chadwick Boseman, but we got a son with the same name who could take on and fulfill the legacy of what Chadwick brought. And I thought that was a good little alternative.
Yeah, that was the best that they could do out of a situation that was not in their hands. And I think that's the big narrative that you should take away from this movie. They pretty much had the worst hand of cards dealt to them. Chadwick Boseman's death, COVID, just everything going on. By all accounts, this movie should not have worked, but it did, and I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a lot of really good moments in this movie that really stuck with me. Like when Namor and his army attack that one ship, and we hear Naval's like Namor's chanting music where they hypnotize all the soldiers to jump to their deaths. I was like, "Whoo, that's a bit freaky."
Yeah, kind of reminded me of uh I don't know, it kind of, I don't know what it reminded me of, but it reminded me of something that I saw in a sci-fi movie once. I'll probably think about it as I'm
Yeah.
editing this
It
later.
reminds me of that thing in Greek mythology of the sirens who make their deadly call to those
That's
people.
that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking of the sirens from the Greek mythology, and I didn't know what it was, but you thought of it. So thank you, Jacob. Yeah, that was what my
Yeah.
mind flashed to. So yeah, I'm so looking forward to seeing more of Namor. I read somewhere that he's actually an Avenger, so I don't know if they're going to do something with that. But considering his legacy and his backstory, it could definitely lead to a lot of good possibilities there.
Yeah, well, I will see. And I saw they casually mentioned in his backstory since his mom took that herb thing that made her and her people able to swim underwater, and that the birth of Namor happened underwater. He casually confirmed he was a mutant. Did you catch that?
He straight up said that he was a mutant. And when I said that, I was like, oh. And I don't expect the X-Men to start popping up in the MCU for quite some time. But that was a very subtle way to put the first seed in the ground. And then that seed is going to get a little water and a little sunshine. And eventually the crop will start to grow and Kevin Feige and all the rest will start to collect. But that's a long ways off.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time that somebody being a mutant was name dropped, right? I don't know if you saw the Miss Marvel show on Disney Plus, but they name dropped at the end of that show that Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, is a mutant.
I did know that, and I did remember doing research on that, so I did know that. But it's looking like they're going to start, like I said, start planting those seeds.
Yep, and it's going to be exciting. Even though Phase 4 is probably the most inconsistent phase I think Marvel's done so far, you can tell they were just kind of experimenting and they didn't really have like a real full on game plan, I think, in this phase. There's still some good movies in there. And now that, Kevin Feige announced that phases 4 through 6 are the multiverse saga, and it's building up to movies like the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, I think the next two phases are going to get better.
I agree, and I think we should not underrate COVID in any of those plans because I was watching this video essay, I can't remember from who, but talking about how Spider-Man No Way Home was allegedly supposed to be even bigger than what we got, which I cannot possibly imagine that because Spider-Man No Way Home was really big. But considering the COVID restraints, and I'm sure that they started filming, I want to say in mid to late 2019, and then COVID happened right in the middle of it. So a lot of things got interrupted. It's forever confined to the ash heap of what if, but bam, just to think that it could have been bigger, that just really makes you think.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the Phase 4 movies were hurt by COVID in some ways because some movies had already finished, but COVID delayed them. And then some movies were about to start and COVID delayed them, and because of safety protocols and other things, I think some stories had to be rewritten because of COVID and like the restrictions and the social distancing and all that. So I think between COVID and I think Marvel maybe putting a little bit too much content than more than what they could chew because some of the shows have been a little bit on the disappointing side, like She Hulk, and I was disappointed personally by the finale of Moon Knight. It's definitely been an inconsistent phase, but I'm still a Marvel fan at the end of the day. I still like most of the stuff that they put out, even in Phase 4. I've liked more of the movies than the shows. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm still excited by what they're gonna do next. I think there's still good talent on display, whether the people behind the camera or Kevin Feige. and it's really exciting to see what's going to happen. Some of my most anticipated movies in Phase 5 are coming out next year. Seeing the Ant-Man trailer, it looks really good. And even Guardians 3. I love James Gunn and those other two Guardians movies. And knowing now that James Gunn's at DC, this is definitely going to be a swan song at Marvel. And I'm hoping he finishes his tenure at Marvel with a high note because I love the other two movies. So there's definitely a lot to be excited for if you're a Marvel fan.
Absolutely. And I really think it speaks to Kevin Feige as a producer that he literally greenlit She-Hulk twerking with Megan Thee Stallion. And yet my interest in the MCU has not declined, at least not
Yeah.
yet. Because I see all the stuff and lying about, oh, the MCU is over, it's dying off. Like, no, it's not. You don't know. You and I do not know how this stuff works. You just have to just be grateful that we're getting these things to begin with. But what did you all think of Black Panther Wakanda Forever or Marvel Phase 4 entirely? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. And that's it. That is the Thanksgiving Eve edition of Life in the Movies and the Books. I almost called you Ryan. Jacob, thank you all. Thank you so much for coming on as usual. I am so looking forward to discussing DreamWorks with you later on today, because this is dropping on Wednesday, to talk about Joseph King of Dreams. I'm looking forward to watching Home Alone with you. What else do you have coming on your channel?
Also coming on my channel, dropping on Thursday, Thanksgiving will be my next Celebrating Disney review, where I'll be talking about Glory Road, one of Disney's sports films from the 2000s. I'm excited to talk about that. And then this Friday, I will be starting my big 31 Days of Christmas series, where I'll be reviewing 31 Christmas movies from Friday all the way up till Christmas Day. I'm starting that series off with a review of the Rankin Bass Christmas special, The Year Without a Santa Claus. And then Saturday, we're doing the watch parties. I'm counting on the 31 Days of Christmas series as well. So Home Alone's coming Saturday, and more videos are coming real soon. I got regular reviews. I got a lot of collaborations stacked, some live discussions, watch parties. It's going to be an exciting Christmas season. Very busy, but I'm excited to talk about it, as Christmas is my favorite time of year. So definitely check out some exciting content coming soon, and I hope to see you there.
Jacob's channels will be linked in the description. Go give him a follow on both of those. And I am so looking forward to doing those things with you and seeing your 31 reviews at Christmas. I'm preparing for Christmania 2022, 25 Christmas movie reviews for 25 days of Christmas. So looking forward to doing that. As far as the immediate future on the channel, I got coming part 2 of my reaction series, where I'm reacting to the League of Cinephiles TIFF series. And so that's going to be coming up. I'm going to post it Thanksgiving Day, so be on the lookout for that. I've got reviews up for The Menu, which is getting better the more I think about it, and A Christmas Story Christmas. And then I do intend on seeing Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery and Strange World. I might see more than that, but I'm definitely betting on those two. And then later on this coming Sunday will be my first reaction to The Emperor's New Groove. So be on the lookout for that. But for Jacob Martin, my name is Ryan Cam. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We will see you in the next one. Take care.